Hello everyone, welcome back to another Warhammer 40k 8th edition battle report. Today we have 1500 points for you of Death Guard versus Tau. With a little bit of a twist, we'll be trying a new mission scenario format. We're going to be doing open war. And the lists themselves are a little bit more on the weird / goofy side as opposed to trying to be hyper competitive. Not that we are hyper competitive in general, but just in general these are especially strange lists that I don't think you'll have seen the likes of anywhere else. Probably for good reason, but still. We'll take a look at them, and then we will randomise ourselves a mission. So here are the 1500 points of Death Guard Battalion, being led by Bob the Nurgling Demon Prince, backed up by two other Demon Princes. Bob is the Warlord trait though, His Warlord trait is Revoltingly Resilient, to make his Disgustingly Resilient one better. He has the Suppurating Plate, and he has Miasma of Pestilence as his spell. He has two Malefic Talons. This Demon Prince is also rocking two Malefic Talons and Putrescent Vitality. This Demon Prince is rocking the Hellforged Sword and has Gift of Contagion. Then for the rest of the team we have a Surgeon, we have a Hellbrute as you see it, a Blow Drone as you see it, Plague Burst Crawler with all the upgrades, the Rot Hail and the Entropy Cannons on the sides. First debut for me seeing these anyway is Chaos Spawn in 8th edition. These were really good in 7th edition. Haven't seen them in 8th edition. They're not as good on paper, but we'll see how they do. We have two 7-man Plague Marine squads, this one of which is going to be in a Rhino with no upgrades beyond the stock. And then finally 15 Poxwalkers, either for objective sitting or for screening. We shall see. So that is the Death Guard. Let's go have a look at the Tau. And here are the 1500 points of Tau Battalion and a super heavy... No, it's not a battalion, it's a Vanguard, I think. Yep, sorry. Vanguard and a super heavy auxiliary. So the Vanguard is being led by the Ethereal. He has a Pure-Tide Engram chip and through Unity Devastation Warlord trait. He also has a Cadre Fireblade as well with him. The Cadre is the only marker light in this list, hence it being a little on the odd side. Crisis Suits, 3-man. They are all not equipped as they appear, they're all equipped with 2 plasma guns each. We have the 2 Riptides that usually make appearances equipped as you see them with target lock, so they can move and fire heavy without penalty. 2 Bare Bones Fire Warriors, 6-man each. 2 of the Missile Spam Broadsides. And then finally the Super Heavy Auxiliary, the Storm Surge with, not target lock, the one that makes AP better by 1, and a shield generator, which is very expensive. Obviously this is a very goofy Tau list. There's no drones for shielding the battlesuits, there's only 1 marker light. This is just a for fun list. So with that said, it's now time to pick our mission. So we're now going to generate an open war mission by randomising an objective, a deployment type and a twist on battle. We're going to allow ourselves one roguelike-ish reroll if we really don't like the thing that happens. A lot of the mission types that come in this fashion usually don't use victory points. It's usually just a win or lose type situation, so we'll see what happens. We might not do secondary objectives depending, but let's start with this. Take and hold, is that classic mission type? Place 1 objective marker in the centre of the battlefield. Each of the players then sets up 1 objective marker in their deployment zone, no more than 12 away from the battlefield edge. At the end of a player's turn, they score 1 victory point for each objective marker they control. If the objective was also controlled by the player at the end of their last turn, they score 3 victory points instead. The player with the most victory points at the end of the 5th battle round is the winner. So this mission is going to use victory points. We're not going to do a reroll, so that means we're also going to use the standard secondary objectives just thrown in. So Linebreaker, First Strike, and Warlord. And the deployment type, let's see. That's an awkward one. It's workable though. Let's see what the other option is with the reroll, but we reserve the right to go back. Oh my goodness. We'll just be doing the square in the corners. And the twist is going to be Acid Rain. Roll a dice at the start of each battle round after the first, so second turn onwards. On a roll of 4 plus, the rain stops. Or starts again. Wait, what does it do though? Subtract 1 from all hit rolls made for shooting attacks and subtract 1 from all advance and charge rolls. Oof, alright, that's the mission we're playing right there. So here we are with both armies deployed, and also just a quick addendum for something in the list that we didn't mention when going over the armies. All 3 Demon Princes have wings. It was probably obvious, even though they're not modelled with them, because you always give Demon Princes wings, but just making sure that it's on camera because totally forgot to mention it at the time. Anyway, the Tau won roll off to pick which corner they got. This is the corner they picked. They finished deploying first because they have such few units, and also the crisis suits are staying off the field, come in as reinforcements. They have opted not to go first. They have given first turn to the Death Guard, so there's not going to be any steal initiative. But this is how they've deployed in the little 2 foot by 2 foot box in the corner here. The Storm Surge is at the back. We have the 2 Riptides sitting here. The objective they placed, it has to be 12 inches away from the battlefield edge. The Cadre next to the Crisis Suits. And the other Fire War is basically just standing there to guard the door, essentially. The middle objective you can just see right there, which both teams will be vying for, presumably. And then if we come over here, we can take a look at the Death Guard deployment. We basically deploy up to the line. They're going to be charging forwards. There's the Rhino with the other Plague Marine squad in it. The Demon Prince that's the Warlord is just behind. Plague Burst Crawler at the back. The Poxwalkers kind of spread out at the back to stop deep striking. And the rest of them over here. Nothing left off the table. Everything is here. So, Tau have given up first turn. They want the Death Guard to go first. So, let's get started with Death Guard turn 1. At the end of Movement and Psychic for Death Guard turn 1, the Acid Rain was a little bit hindering in terms of advancing. The Chaos Spawn tried to advance and only got 1 after the subtraction, as did the Bloat Drone. The Demon Princes flew forwards, the Rhino moved up and popped smoke, so thanks to Acid Rain it's actually going to be -2 to hit, which is pretty nice. Bob the Nurgling Demon Prince cast Miasma of Pestilence on the other Demon Prince here, so he's going to be -2 technically, because that's -1 plus the -1 from Acid Rain. He cast Putrescent Vitality on the Plague Marines behind him, so they're +1 strength and toughness. Gift of Contagion was attempted on the Plague Marines, but that just failed, and a reroll was already used in the Psychic phase, so another one couldn't be used. Other than that, the Poxwalkers kind of spread themselves thinly, also getting into range of the objective. And I think the Bullet Drone is actually in range of the objective as well. I think that's 4 inches, we'll double check. So now, there probably won't be too much shooting, especially thanks to the -1 from the Acid Rain to that. But let's see what happens. So here we are at the end of Death Guard turn 1, proper, and honestly not much else happened. The Plague Burst Crawler fired all of its weapons, but it moved, so that made it BS5. And Acid Rain made it hit on 6s, so it tried to fire its entropy cannons at the closest Riptide, it shot its Plague Burst Mortar at the Fire Warriors guarding the objective, and no 6s, so there was no hits, and the rest of the guns are not in range yet. Everything's just kind of charging forwards. However, the card for Taken Hold does not specifically say anything different, so presumably it's the same rules as normal for whether an objective is counting as claimed or contested or etc. So, at the end of Death Guard turn 1, which is when the points are counted up, they've got 1 victory point for holding this one, Boxwalkers are in range, and they have the middle one, because that's 4 inches. So, 2 victory points. If they are holding both those objectives at the end of the next turn, they go up in value for how many points they give. So with that, let's pass over to Tau turn 1. Here we are at the end of movement for Tau turn 1. The Storm Surge opted to advance, because otherwise it can't really get into position, plus with the Acid Rain being on for sure, it didn't seem like that relevant for it to stay still. So it's moved over here. After its shooting phase it will be deploying its stabilizing anchors because it has good line of sight on the approaching Death Guard army. But this turn it did advance, didn't do great because of the minus from Acid Rain again, but still, both Riptides have boosted up onto here. They've also activated their engines which wound them, so they're both down to 13 wounds. They're using the big profiles for their main guns this time. Again, just trying to do some damage before the Death Guard approach. This Fire Warrior squad is just kind of blocking the way. The 2 broadsides moved up ever so slightly, and there's just been some shuffling down here as well. So that's it. Let's see if they can do anything despite the Acid Rain in the shooting phase. So at the end of a very uneventful Tau turn 1, not very much happened because of the Psychic Power lowering hit chance, the Acid Rain lowering hit chance. The Riptides, they shot into mostly the closest, zoom in there, the closest Demon Prince and the Rhino, but weren't able to get past the -2s on both of them. The Smart Missile Systems did shoot into the Plague Marines behind because they don't need direct line of sight, but missed. The broadsides, again they moved, so it was an additional -1 as well. They and the Fire Warriors there shot into the Bloat Drone holding the middle objective. and weren't able to land any wounds, unfortunately. So they managed to achieve absolutely nothing as well. They are only holding the objective that started in their lines though, so they are only getting the 1 point. So as we go into Death Guard turn 2, it is a 2-1 to them. As we start turn 2, we have to see whether or not the acid rain continues on this turn. So on a 4+, 4+ has indeed happened. The rain stops if it was raining, but next turn on a 4+ it will start again. So there's no -1s on hits and advances and charges for turn 2. So after movement and psychic for Death Guard in turn 2, the Poxwalkers have kind of spread themselves out around the back objective. The Plague Burst Crawler did not move this turn. Over here, the Plague Marines just moved up a little bit, the Hellbrute did as well. Over here, Bob is now hiding amongst the ruins. The Rhino moved up, the Plague Marines inside have not departed. The other two Demon Princes are basically charging, as is the Bloat Drone, as is the Chaos Spawn. The Chaos Spawn have had Miasma Pestilence cast on them by the Warlord. Over here, the other two Demon Princes just opted to do Smite on the Riptide that was closest, and he is now down to 7 wounds remaining. So basically they did half his health with just smites, which is pretty nasty, especially now because there's still shooting to be done. Let's see what can be done now. So at the end of Death Guard turn 2 proper, they did a lot of damage. The mortar and the entropy cannons all fired. The mortar fired at the objective holding Firewars, killed 2 of them. The entropy cannons did a bit of damage to the Riptide that you can see is dead down here. It took a little bit more damage. It had 1 wound remaining. The Demon Prince charged it just to try and take it out. It took Overwatch from both Riptides because of the rule that makes them fire. Went down to 5 wounds on the way in. Easily in combat though, smushed the Riptide. Also the other Firewars were wiped out by the Bloat Drone. Not in the first turn, so first strike was not awarded, but that is some heavy casualties. And at the end of the turn, the Death Guard still hold the 2 objectives they held at the end of the first turn. So as per the mission rules, that means they give out 3 victory points each this turn instead of 1. Oh, also this specifically goes to the 5th turn, which is how we usually play House Roulette here. So that's good. And not looking good for the Tau. Their reinforcements are coming in though. We'll see if that makes any difference as they try and claw something back. So at the end of movement for Tau turn 2, the Crisis Suits have dropped down immediately here, 9 inches away from the Poxwalkers. Remember, they're all armed with double plasma rifles. Other than that, the Riptide surviving, well, the surviving Riptide moved back a little bit. The Storm Surge has not moved because its stabilizing anchors are down to make it BS3 as opposed to 4. Over here, everything stayed still as well, hopefully to take use of the Cadre Fireblade's ability as well as the Ethereals, and also so they're hitting at maximum ballistic skill. Let's see what they can do. This is the most key shooting phase the Tau have ever had. Let's see if they can do some damage. So at the end of Tau turn 2, we'll start at this corner and kind of just work our way around. The 2 broadsides fired everything, their high yield missile pods and smart missile systems, so just a barrage of rockets into the Bloat Drone, but Bloat Drones are just amazingly sturdy. Got it down to 7 wounds remaining. That was also with, no actually, the Firewars and the Cadre shot twice because of, well, shot an extra shot, sorry, on top of the rapid fire because they stood still. Into the Demon Prince, did some wounds. The Riptide also shot their fusion blasters into the Demon Prince that was closest, and then shot their large gun into the Bloat Drone and did nothing. He took off a wound because he was using the higher profile again that takes a wound off. And all that fire left that Demon Prince on 1 shot. It was actually the Storm Surge that finished him off. The Storm Surge has a lot of weapons, so let's just cover what happened. So the burst cannons under there plus the smart missile systems were targeted at the Demon Prince, but the burst cannons actually got lucky and did the last wound, so the smart missile systems were wasted this turn. It has 4 destroyer missiles, 1, 2, 3, 4, that are 1 use only. They all shot at the Rhino, but they need a 6 to hit without using marker lights, so they missed. They have cluster rockets, which are the big missile things on either side. They shot into the other Demon Prince at the back here, but sadly rolled very badly and missed. The pulse driver cannon, which is the big gun, shot at the Hellbrute and got it down to 6 wounds remaining. fairly lackluster, got very unlucky there. Only other thing to cover, the Crisis Suits way at the back of the table. Only killed 2 Poxwalkers, unfortunately. Not a great turn, not what they needed better than that. Now we'll move on to Death Guard turn 3. Quick addendum, the Tau still hold their own objectives, so that gave them 3 victory points this turn, and now we need to see if Acid Rain comes back. It did not, that was a 2. So the Acid Rain is still off for turn 3. End of Death Guard turn 3, the Poxwalkers just consolidated around the objective, they're just trying to weather the storm from the Crisis Suits. The Plague Marines here with the Plague Surgeon in tow has moved up, the Hellbrute also moved up. The other Plague Marine squad walked out of the Rhino to hold the central objective and just put more bodies on the field because the tower is struggling to deal with them. The Bullet Drone didn't move. Yeah, the Bullet Drone is meant to be forwards, didn't move that one. The Demon Princes hopped up on there, cast Smite, killed 2 Fire Warriors. The Chaos Spawn have advanced and are over there, they got 3 inches on top of the 7. And the other Demon Prince, the Warlord, has moved up a little bit there. So yeah, the Plague Drone is going to be a little bit further forwards. Should have been moved up to attack the broadsides, which they will do in the shooting phase. So at the proper end of Death Guard turn 3, it wasn't that amazing of a turn, which is good for the Tau, I suppose. The Multi-Melter on the Hellbrute missed. Also, we forgot to do his Crazed roll at the end of the phase in which he took wounds. Too late now to go back, unfortunately, but we did notice it was done incorrectly or bad. So, over here, the Plague Spitters on the Bloat Drone actually didn't manage to wound the broadside, so he did nothing. He successfully charged, didn't take any wounds on the way in. They are in combat, however, they were unable to wound each other. But he has tied up the broadsides, so they're not able to fire, even if they fall back next turn, which is the main thing they wanted to do, so that was done. The Plague Burst Crawler knocked a few more wounds, 5 wounds I think it was, off this Riptide with the Entropy Cannons. The main mortar shot and failed, thanks to Sense of Stone, to kill any of the Fire Warriors there. Other than that, nothing else. Not that they needed to really, because the tower definitely suffering. It's on to their turn, though, to see what they can do. Oh, and at the end of that turn, that's another 6 victory points for the Death Guard, because they still hold their own objective and the central one. And they're starting to encroach on the final one as well, which does not bode well. End of movement for the Tau in turn 3. The Crisis Suits moved up their full 8. That's about it, honestly. The Riptide over here has shuffled ever so slightly, and the broadsides opted to fall back, even though it means they can't fire this turn, just to try and get that Bloat Drone killed. We'll see as we move into the shooting phase. End of Tau turn 3, and that was a very frustrating turn just because things refused to very quite die. They got close, but didn't quite make it. But we'll start over here. The Crisis Suits killed 2 more Poxwalkers. They rolled 4 1s on their hits for shooting. So they only killed 2 more. They charged, made their charge, killed 2 more in combat, took no damage on return. I believe there's 9 Poxwalkers left there of the 15 that started. Over here, the combined fire from the Cadbury Fireblade and the 2 surviving Fire Warriors went into the Bloat Drone, as did the Riptide, who took another wound off himself to fire his maximum power. You'll notice though that the Bloat Drone has 1 wound left, the Demon Prince up here has 6 wounds left, and the Hellbrute has 2 wounds left. That was again from the Storm Surge splitting his fire. Big Cannon went into the Hellbrute, the Burst Cannons were out of range, Smart Missile Systems went into the Bloat Drone, and the Cluster Rocket Systems went into the Demon Prince. Annoying. They weren't able to break. The Poxwalkers are fearless as well, so they're not doing anything. So, the Bullet Drone didn't die, came very close, it's on its minimum bracket. The Hellbrute does not have brackets, because they're like dreadnoughts, so he's still fighting fit, even though he only has 2 wounds left. So, let's move on. Oh, actually, first of all, we have to see whether or not the Acid Rain carries on or not. It does not come back on, which I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing at this point, honestly. Let's move on to Death Guard turn 4. So to cover movement in Psychic for the penultimate turn for the Death Guard, this Plague Marine squad with the Plague Surgeon at the front, well, front now, turned around to go help the Poxwalkers because they're losing control of the objective back here. The Plague Burst Crawler stayed still. This Plague Marine squad basically just consolidated their position around the middle objective. I don't think they're going to have any problems. The Hellbrute has moved up, moving towards the Storm Surge on the edge of the table here. Over here, the Demon Prince that was here flew all the way over to here because that made the Ethereal the closest target. And then he cast Smite in the Psychic phase. It was a super Smite, but it only did a couple of wounds or 3 wounds. However many leaves the Ethereal on 1 wound. The Bloatdrone just kind of stayed still. He's just going to flame from where he is. The Rhino moved up to block the door there. And the Chaos Spawn, they're not really getting a chance to do much because the army didn't come to meet them. And they've had some bad advance rolls. They just moved up. Oh, and Bob is in there. Okay, so on to their shooting phase. See what happens. So at the end of the penultimate Death Guard turn, it was a stalemate over there between the Crisis Suits and the Poxwalkers. The main things that happened were over here, though. The Plague Burst Crawler took out the Fire Warriors. The Bloatdrone eviscerated the Cadre Fireblade with his Plague Burst, his Plague Splitters, rather. Then in the assault phase, even though it had 1 wound, it charged the broadsides to force the broadsides to do Overwatch and potentially get drawn into combat so that they couldn't shoot alongside the Ethereal when he was charged. As it happens, they managed to take off the 1 last wound in the Bloatdrone. So the Bloatdrone technically suicided, but still used up their Overwatch. Actually, it occurred to me though, the charge wasn't a success, so they could Overwatch successfully again and attack the Demon Prince. We'll do a quick addendum if they did any more wounds to it. It's incredibly unlikely they'll have killed him. Either way though, he got into combat and he has killed the Ethereal, so assuming the Overwatch doesn't kill the Demon Prince, that's still a thing that happened for Slay the Warlord since we're running with that. Also means that the Demon Prince is currently holding that objective, but it only gives 1 point because it's the first turn they've held it. Now as we go into... oh wait, no, yes, it's at the end of the Tau turn. We'll check to see if the Acid Rain comes back, although at this point I don't think it really matters. But let's move over to the Tau, barring any kind of addendum down here. So there's very little to cover for movement in the penultimate turn for the Tau because the Crisis Suits are locked in combat. Forgot to mention at the end of the recap for the Plague Marines, the Death Guard rather, the Hellbrute did do 1 wound to the Storm Surge with his multi-melta. Anyway, the only thing that moved was the Riptide to claim the objective, assuming this Demon Prince goes down, which is what he and the Broadsides are about to try and do. So quick shooting phase coming right up. So a quick but decisive turn for Tau for their second last turn. The gist of it, for what little units they have left, combined fire had to be both of them unfortunately. The Broadsides and the Riptide killed the Demon Prince that was there, so the Riptide is claiming the objective. They did not claim it last turn however, so it only gives them 1 point this turn. Over here the Storm Surge shot the Pulse Driver Cannon into the Plague Marines that are heading towards the Crisis Suits, killed 3 of them? Yeah, 3 of them I think. Or 4 of them actually. And in the combat over at the far end of the table, zoom in, the Crisis Suits did nothing and received nothing back, so not exactly doing great there. The writing's been on the wall for a while I think, but we'll quickly let the Death Guard have their final turn. Oh, we need to see if Acid Rain comes back on. It does not. So it was only very painful for the 1 turn where it did the worst for the Tau. Anyway, on to Death Guard final turn. So at the end of movement and Psychic for the final Death Guard turn, the surviving Plague Marines and Plague Doctor can't really get close enough to get involved, although the Crisis Suits are literally incapable even if they get perfect kills on their next turn. Well, actually they got perfect twice in a row on this turn and their own turn. It might be possible to shift the Poxwalkers, but I don't think that's going to happen based on their previous performance. The only other movement to occur was the Chaos Spawn moving up. The Rhino moved up ever so slightly as well, and Bob flew over to attack the objective. He cast Smite and did 1 wound to the surviving Riptide, and that is it. Let's go to a very quick shooting in the assault phase. So at the end of the final Death Guard turn, the Chaos Spawn didn't have a great showing. On the way in, the Overwatch from the broadside killed 1 and put another wound on 1, leaving it on 3. They only got, well, they got AP -4 as their mutation, which is really good, but they only got 1 attack because it's D6 attacks. And they didn't do anything to the broadsides. The broadsides didn't do anything back, but not a great showing. Over here, the Demon Prince took a wound, or a few wounds, however many, 3 wounds I think it is, on the way into the Riptide in combat with its Malefic Talons and its bonus attacks. It just absolutely destroyed the Riptide, securing that objective for them again. The Tau cannot catch up, so I don't even... Oh, in the combat against the Poxwalkers, they did better, they killed 3, but that was not perfect. They needed to kill 6, ideally. So we are going to very quickly do a final Tau turn 5, just to see if the crisis suits, because if they have 6 attacks in total between them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, there's 6 Poxwalkers left, so if they have a literal perfect kill score, they will at least claim that objective for some Pyrrhic points. We'll see, as we very quickly do the Tau's final turn. So for our very final Tau turn 5, there was only really 2 things that mattered. The broadsides fell back in order to have majority control of the objective, because nothing here is troops, so they don't have priority. Also hoped that the Storm Surge over here, firing everything bar the burst cannons because they weren't in range, to kill the Warlord for an extra point. Only managed to clip off either 2 or 3 wounds, leaving him on 3 remaining, so sadly Warlord didn't happen. And the combat between the Poxwalkers and the Crisis Suits was not perfect. 6 did not die, in fact 0 died, so there was nothing to be done there. The Poxwalkers still have majority and are infantry, so they have priority control. So the Tau managed to... They held that at the end of their last turn, I believe, right? No, they didn't, because the Riptide died, so it's still just 1 point. We'll be back in a second with the recap, though, and the final scores. So at the end of the game, that was a rough one for the Tau. 2 not optimised, kind of silly lists being thrown against each other. The Acid Rain twist on the randomised battle was definitely not something the Tau wanted to see early on. In terms of victory points, including secondary objectives that we just incorporated into the rules, the Death Guard had Slay the Warlord for a point, they have Linebreaker for a point, and the Tau have Linebreaker for a point. Neither side got the first strike in their first turn, so no points there. But again, keep in mind the randomly created objective was taken hold, 1 victory point for holding each of the objectives, unless it was 2 turns in a row or more, in which case they gave out 3 victory points rather than 1, meaning that the final scores were 30 victory points to the Death Guard and 10 victory points to the Tau, so a pretty bad stomping. The Death Guard advanced, just hoping that there was enough of them that they wouldn't perish to the gun line before they made it, and the basic gist of how to handle the Storm Surge was, hey, let's ignore the Storm Surge. Ignore it, and it seemed to work. The Storm Surge, it was misplaced in deployment. It was because the deployment was kind of like a square here, it was kind of not in a great place. I wonder if it had been here, if things had been different, because the Rhino wouldn't have been able to get through, the Bloat Drone would have been kind of blocked, although the Bloat Drone has fly, I suppose. It didn't do fantastically, but obviously this was not an optimised Tau list. Tau lists need to have marker lights, and then you need to use the stratagems to generate more marker lights to have them hitting on better than 4s. This was just a mech spam list, just to see what happened. I do feel that Acid Rain worked against them more so than it did the Death Guard, because the Death Guard didn't have much to shoot in turn 1, whereas had the Acid Rain not been on, it would have only been -1 on some of the units, and that would have made a big difference to their casualties straight away. It might not have changed the outcome of the match, but would definitely have made maybe a more even start to the game. But anyway, that's going to do it for this battle report. Next time we're going to change up the table entirely. This forest planet or whatever it is going to be bid adieu, and we'll adieu, whatever. I don't know French. And we'll be moving on to a different planet type with a new layout and different objectives. We're going to try open war again, try and generate another random mission next time. I hope you enjoyed. If you haven't been, go check out the Batman miniature game battle reports, it's a very fun game, or the contrast paint videos, which you'll see models painted in that series in these battle reports as part of the studio armies. Thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed. Spread Nurgle's love, and I'll see you next time. Ta-ta for now.